Welcome to Witness Wednesday here on the Walk Boldly with Jesus podcast. I am your host, Katherine Duggan. However, each Wednesday, I will have a guest give their witness of how God is working in their lives. Hearing how God is working in other people's lives shows us how deeply He cares for each one of us individually. Listening to these experiences will help your faith grow. I am so blessed to be able to share these with you. Let's get started. Today's witnesses are from a website called thoughtcatalog.com. It is a list of several miracles that happened to different people. I do not know any of the people who wrote in with these miracles. Dr. Dakota Fox wrote the article. I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. Number 1. My father was once traveling along a countryside highway. It was an early morning and he was at the front of a long line of traffic. Along his way, he spotted a hitchhiker with a hiking backpack, and being the kind person he was, he stopped for them and lost his place at the front of traffic. The guy seemed really friendly. Dad chatted with him about his work and his family. He told the guy how he wanted to have a kid, and the guy was super friendly, nice, and supportive. All of a sudden, he asked my dad to drop him off. Dad was confused as this was right next to a field in the middle of nowhere. The guy said, "Don't worry about it," and got out, which weirded my dad out. My dad turned to leave and noticed the guy had left his bag. He went to let the guy know, but he was gone, nowhere to be seen. Dad says he searched for him, but it made no sense where he went or how he could hide. Upon getting back in the car, he looked in the bag and found it to be empty. Also weird. He decided to continue on his way and joined back in traffic. He came to the first set of lights eventually and noticed an accident had happened to the car that was behind him in the line of traffic originally. And he realized, had he not picked up that guy, he would have been in the accident. That guy saved his life. 2 weeks later, his wife became pregnant with me. My dad still has the bag and carries it with him in the car at all times, hoping to eventually run into the guy and thank him. Number 2. My wife and I tried having a baby for a couple of years with no luck. Got to the point of IVF, which is what finally worked. We were both excited that it was actually happening and made it to the point where you can see the heartbeat flicker. Shortly after, she bled to the point where she passed what looked bigger than a clot, and we assumed to be the baby. We went to the doctor and they confirmed no more heartbeat. Come back in a couple of days and I'll check if all passed or if surgical removal was necessary. A tech started checking her out and the tech called the doctor in the room. Turns out they saw flickering again that they didn't see before. Everything appeared to be back in order, but threatened that a miscarriage could still happen. Fast forward to 30 weeks. Wife's blood pressure rises and gets diagnosed with preeclampsia. She wasn't allowed to leave the hospital until the baby was out. After a week and a half, they move her to a different floor because she's stable. The morning after the move, she has a seizure and an emergency C-section is needed. Baby was born and taken to the NICU, which she started out strong. The second or third day, her lungs were collapsing and needed a chest tube to expand the lungs. 45 days later, after learning to eat from a bottle, she came home at 5 pounds. Now she's almost 3, and other than being skinny, you couldn't tell what she went through, other than the 2 scars and respiratory colds taking a little more effect on her. Number 3. My grandfather had a heart attack while driving and crashed into a tree. He was without oxygen to his brain for 25 minutes. The hospital did everything they could to revive him, actually trying to revive him for 3+ hours because it was a veterans hospital and he was a decorated Green Beret. I was called to the hospital and was told he was brain dead. He was without oxygen for too long. I cried, and all the while my family was around his bedside talking to him. The doctors told them he might be able to hear them. They were going to take him off life support that night, but my uncle from San Diego missed his flight and couldn't come in until the morning, so they decided to wait. Well, good thing. A few hours later, I was next to my grandpa and his hands started twitching. I called the nurse in and she told us that these were just spasms and that it's normal. The twitches kept getting more severe and more frequent. After a while, the doctor started to get a little concerned and checked his vitals. They seemed shocked. After a while, he opened his eyes. We were all in shock, complete disbelief. They told us he was brain dead and they were going to take him off life support. He couldn't talk for hours, but he asked for a pen and notepad to write something down. The first thing he wrote was Energizer and Bunny. It took him about 2 days before he could speak, and now, 4 years later, he is a fully functioning 62-year-old man. Number 4. I was 18 and driving down the 5 freeway towards San Diego. I was on the far right lane going about 65, and there was an old Chinese driver who was going about the same speed on my lane to my left. There was a bunch of other cars around us going at a steady pace. He didn't realize I was right next to him and tried to merge into my lane. I freaked out and I swerved to the right. My car, a 96 Accord, broke out and I ended up doing 2 360s through 4 lanes and I stopped facing the oncoming traffic. There were absolutely no cars around me when it happened, and when I stopped, the cars were a really good distance from me. It was as if something pushed them all back when my car broke out. I didn't hit anyone, and after I stopped, I was shocked, took a chance to catch my breath, and pulled off to the right lane. Then I bawled like a baby and called my mom. Number 5. I had cancer that was slow to respond to even red devil chemo. The doctor switched me to Ibrance plus a hormonal drug. I took it for 3 months, and the tumor went from being the size of a very large grapefruit to one too small to be measured. The doctors never saw anything like it. After 3 months, I needed a refill for the hormonal drug. I called the oncologist nurse, named the drug, and she said it was never prescribed to me. The doctor prescribed something else. The records indicated that the drug I was on was one that no one gave me. But it was the combo that tamed the tumor. No one knows where that prescription came from. They were joking that, well, there's one blind study that we can't discuss. And last but not least, number 6. My dad was in a bad car accident around 1994 and had to walk with a cane because of herniated discs. The doctors did back surgery on him and fused part of his spine with titanium rods. He was bedridden a good amount of the time. I was really little and believed that Jesus would heal him if we would just go to one of those places I saw on TV, Benny Hinn Crusades. My mom heard that a local church was busing people to one of them, so she called and got us seats. We were seated in the nosebleed section, and it came to the part of the night where people started walking to stage and reporting that they were healed. I looked at my dad and said, "Don't you want to be healed? You should go down there." At the time, my little sister said the same thing. She was around 5 years old. My dad gave my mom his cane and wobbled out of the row of seats. There were at least 6 flights of stairs to get to the bottom of the arena. My dad took the first step without his cane, and I thought he was going to fall down the stairs. He took the second step, and the next thing I remember, we were racing each other down the stairs to the bottom. When we got to the bottom, a lady grabbed my dad by the shoulder and said, "God told me to wait for you." She took his hand and led us straight to the side of the stage. One of the ushers started asking him what God had done for him, and he quickly told what had happened. The next thing I knew, we were on the stage, and my dad was running back and forth with no cane, something I hadn't seen my dad do for over 6 years at that time. The rest was a blur. Long story short, my dad has been walking fine ever since, 16 plus years. He went back to the doctors afterwards, and they couldn't explain what happened. Even though that happened when I was younger, it's hard to not have doubts as an adult that some people are phonies when it comes to those types of church programs. At least for my dad, one confirmed case, it was 1000% real. Jesus literally healed my dad, and there is real life evidence to show for it. Crazy. After all these years of listening to my dad's homilies about miracles that have happened in my family, and all these years of participating in Witness Wednesdays, I am still surprised by all the miraculous ways God works in our lives. Actually, I am not sure if I'm surprised or just in awe of the miraculous way He works. I wish everyone knew He was still working today as He did back then in the day of the apostles. If you are in need of a miracle, keep asking, keep believing, and keep coming. Have a blessed day. Next up, we have all seen God working in our lives. However, we might not all be aware it is God who is working in our lives. This is why it's so important we start talking about it more. The more we share our experiences, the more people understand how God works and how much He truly loves us. If you would be willing to share any of your experiences of how God has worked in your life, please email me at Catherine@findingtruenorthcoaching.com. CATHERINE at findingtruenorthcoaching.com. Or you can click on the link below. It won't take up much of your time, and your story could be just the story someone needs to hear today. Please prayerfully consider sharing your story. Everyone has one, and the world needs to hear them. I look forward to spending time with you again tomorrow. Remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. I will have another witness for you next Wednesday. Have a blessed day.